fun. These feet will hold me up.
These feet will hold me up.
These feet won't let me down.
These feet won't let me down.
These feet are growing roots.
These feet are growing roots.
Right in the solid ground.
Right in the solid ground.
Oh, mama, 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 spread the news around.
Spread the news around.
That all the grandmothers,
All the grandmothers
got our feet on the ground.
got our feet on the ground.
These feet will hold me up.
These feet will hold me up.
These feet won't let me down.
These feet won't let me down.
These feet are growing roots.
These feet are growing roots.
Right in the solid ground.
Right in the solid ground.
Oh, mama, mama, mama,
Oh, mama, mama, mama,
spread the news around.
spread the news around.
That all the grandmothers,
That all the grandmothers
got our feet on the ground.
we got our feet on the ground.
That all the grandmothers,
That all the grandmothers
got our feet on the ground.
we got our feet on the ground.
The Great Council of the Grandmothers are a form of the divine, and they've come at this time because, as they say, the world needs mothering now. You've had to make do without a mother for far too long, and all the earth is suffering because of this great imbalance. The energies on earth are out of balance. The energies of what they say we call yin and yang, which they say is close enough, not exactly right, but close enough. There's too much of the energy of yang, the masculine principle, which is the energy of action. This is the energy that's always doing something new, creating change. It's also the energy that, because it's so strident, it can, as it gets further along, it gets more and more strident, and it can become a problem. And it is a problem right now because it's creating a lot of violence, a lot of strife. There's too much yang, there's not enough yin. Yin is the energy of the great holding, nurturance, feeding, support for life. This is the energy of the feminine principle, which the grandmothers say has been almost absent on the earth for a long time, at least very, very depleted. So much so that they say, in your time, you do not know the great power of the feminine principle. All you know is the power of yang, the masculine principle, because that's all the earth and all the cultures on earth have been about for a long time. And so they have come to bring this balance back, to recreate harmony between yin and yang, between feminine and masculine. And they say women are the natural reservoirs of yin for the planet. I personally don't know why that's true, but I believe them. And they say we hold this energy of yin for everything that lives. And so every woman who steps forward to receive this empowerment into the energy of yin that the grandmothers offer makes of herself a vessel, a holding tank, for this energy on earth, and everything benefits. The grandmothers say you become a walking blessing upon the earth. And so their message is primarily for women. It's also for men, but they say that the only men who will respond to this message that they brought to bring are men who already have a balance of yin and yang within themselves. And they say there aren't very many of those. And so what they say is, this is the time for women to step forward. It can be no other way. And that is why they've come now. They are, as I said before, they're a form of the divine. And they have explained a lot of that to me, that the divine is only one. but it differentiates itself at different points in time, in history, in different cultures, for the benefit of human beings, because they say it's very difficult for human beings to just relate to this idea of a formless God, a formless divinity, a force. That's hard for human beings. And so the divine, being total compassion and love, shows up from different times in these different forms. And so the grandmothers have come, and I asked them why they come in this form, and they said because everybody understands the archetype of grandmother. Everybody knows what that means. The grandmother is the one who seeks the highest good for the entire family of life. She loves the children, she loves the mothers, she loves the fathers. She works to sustain and support the family of life. And so the grandmothers have come now, and they've said that they will usher in the return of the feminine principle, what some call the divine feminine, some call the great mother, the divine mother. Basically, the missing half. We've lived under patriarchy for so many years, and the grandmothers say that right now the energies of yin and yang are so far out of balance. Yang is so extended, yin is so depleted that everything is about to collapse. And they say if you look at your world, you see all these symptoms of this imbalance now. Crimes against the helpless, crimes against children, crimes against women, crimes against anybody or any culture that's weaker, because the energy of yang, when it's out of balance with yin, seeks to dominate, and it's all about power over, the power of force, instead of the power to sustain and hold and support. And so the grandmothers say they had to come now. And they've also said they would not see the earth destroyed. And the earth will not be destroyed because they will not allow that. They have said they will do this work with us or without us. But they said, if you miss this chance, you will never forgive yourself. So I've signed up, and they're here for everyone.
All the grandmothers hear us calling, we your children are healing. Oh, grandmothers hear us calling, we your children are healing. Power, power, our love is our power. Power, power, our love is our power. Oh, grandmothers, hear us calling, we your children are healing. Oh, grandmothers, hear us calling, we your children are healing. Power, power, our love is our power. Power, power, our love is our power. Oh, grandmothers, hear us calling, we your children are healing. Oh, grandmothers, hear us calling, we your children are healing.
Never doubt it. Our love is our power.
The grandmothers say that because of this intense imbalance of yin and yang, everybody suffers. And they say that woman has become deprived of her own essence because women are primarily yin. And men have lost their way because they don't have the support of yin from the women in their life. They don't have the support of yin from the planet because the planet itself has been desecrated so much. And so they are teetering on the brink of collapse. The grandmothers say when women don't feel their own essence, when they don't feel the energy of yin within themselves, they feel helpless and weak, like there's nothing they can do, and hopeless. Oh well, and you'll hear women say this, it's a man's world. What can I do? I'm just a woman, as if. And men, conversely, feel empty, and they're so empty, it makes them crazy. They're looking for something to fill this hole, and they go out into the world grabbing and raping, pillaging, trying to fill this hole. And the grandmothers say, this imbalance that's on all over the earth now isn't anybody's fault. Because at first, when I went to them, I was convinced it was men's fault. Those suckers screwed up, and we are the victims of it. And the grandmothers would laugh because they said, no, it's not that. The energies are out of balance, and the energies have to be restored into balance. And when that happens, then men will live in support of life. They will be great support to women and to children, to everyone. And women will take their proper place. And again, they say, at this time of crisis, women must lead. It can be no other way. They also talk about the energy of yin, although it has become very, very depleted and very weakened, and almost an unknown quantity. We don't ever talk about God the Mother. We don't know what that is. But the grandmothers say, still, in spite of all this patriarchy and the attempts to snuff out the power of yin, the energy of yin has never died. It's gone dormant. And so when we pass on, the grandmothers first gave me their empowerment into the energy of yin, which made me feel complete and wonderful, complete in a way I'd never felt before. And then they told me, pass this on. So now for many years, there are groups all over the world, and we're all passing on the empowerment to women, and the cloak of comfort, which brings a man into balance, to men. But what they said is the energy of yin has never gone out in you. It exists as a very small spark within you. And the empowerment blows that spark into full flame. And they say you will begin to bloom then in beauty, power, in power, beauty, which is your nature. You will bloom as the flower that you've always been and always will be.
This is holy ground. We're standing on holy ground. For love is present, and where love is present is holy. These are holy hearts. Love's given us holy hearts. Love works through these hearts, and so these hearts are holy. These are holy hands. Love's given us holy hands. Love works through these hands, and so these hands are holy. These are holy lives. Love's given us holy lives. Love works through these lives, and so these lives are holy. This is holy ground. We're standing on holy ground. For love is present. is holy. Oh, love is present, and where love is present is holy.
When the grandmothers first came, it didn't take long until they introduced me and then everybody else to what they call the net of light, and said that the net of light covers the earth. And at first they talked about it, or at least I understood it, like it was a great fishing net that spread over the earth and, covered everywhere. And they said, we're all connected. You are all connected in the net of light. And they told us to walk forward and take our place on the net of light and find the place that felt right for each of us. And so I did that, and everyone did that. They said where two of the sections come together in a cross or a T, sit down there and connect with the net of light. This is the net of light, they said, that holds the earth and will support the earth during the times of change that are coming. This was in 1997 when they first did this. And so for several years, they would talk about these times of change that were coming and how the net of light would give stability and sustenance to the earth so it could withstand these shifting energies. A few years ago, they started to talk about the times of change that are now upon you. And so it was clear that we are, as most of us know, in those times of change that had been foretold for so long. And the grandmothers say the energies on earth are shifting now, and they must shift. Were things to have to continue the way they were going, with the energy of yang becoming ever more extended, more strident, more out there, and no yin to support it, to hold it, to balance it, would tip right over the edge and destroy the earth. And they've said that will not happen. The energy of yin must come in now in increasing supply to moderate, support, and harmonize this energy of yang. When I was first working with them, I had great difficulty understanding this because I lived in a yang world, and that's all I knew. So I couldn't understand what was this power of yin. So I would ask them, and I think they must have just gotten, fed up with trying to explain. So being the consummate teachers they are, they showed me. They said to me, okay, come here, look. And then they pointed. And I was standing with them at like the edge of a cliff or a high promontory. And I could see very far. And way, way out there, I saw dust or cloud moving back and forth. And then I could see there was an animal running. And I watched, and I could see, it was like a longhorn steer. And it was racing, and it had a rawhide tether tied around its neck. And it would race to the end of that tether, and the tether would jerk, and the animal, like that. And then it would run the other way, do the same thing. And it was exhausted, and it was scared, and it was slobbering, and the steam was coming off of it. It was frantic. Grandmothers brought me up very close, and I jumped behind them because it was scary. It was so out of control. And they said, this is the energy of yang as it is on your earth today. It is helpless to stop itself. Without the intervention of yin, yang is helpless and out of control. And I got it. I understood. That's it. And that's why women are being called to come in and take their place and hold this power of yin, not only for ourselves, it does such good for us, but for the good of all life, men, animals, plants, minerals, the atmosphere, everything. It was an enormous teaching, and I've told that story of the bull since then, and I put it in the first of the grandmother's books, A Call to Power, The Grandmothers Speak. And along with that, that was a real pivotal teaching because I was able at last to get outside my yang framework and see beyond that and see, oh yes, I can see this imbalance. And I can also see that no one is to blame for it. That bull could not have stopped himself to save his life. He was beside himself with terror, and he could do nothing more than run like a crazed beast until the energy of yin came in to hold and support and calm him. So that was a seminal teaching, and the other seminal teaching was about the net of light that covers the earth and supports all life on earth. We'd worked with this net of light for maybe 5 years or so, and I still thought of it as this fishing net that covered the earth from the outside, holding it. And then I began to see that it was inside the earth as well. It was inside me as well. The net of light was not external. It was like this fabric, part of the fabric of being that held everything inside the body, outside the body, in the atmosphere, in the waters, in the earth, in the mountain ranges, in the deserts, everywhere, on the freeways, in high-rise buildings, everywhere is this net of light, holding steady in light, with light, to support all of us as we go through this sometimes very difficult shifting change we're living through now. So every time we have a grandmother's meeting, we always work with the net of light. The grandmothers ask that we do this for ourselves and to serve the planet. And we do this. And what's happened over the years is many of us have experienced this. I certainly have. The net of light has grown stronger, more pervasive, thicker, brighter, everywhere. And we continue this work, and we will always continue this work. And an interesting thing happened. I just thought this was a teaching from the grandmothers, and it was called the net of light, and that's all I knew. Then I began to hear people speak of the grid, the web of light, the web, different names. And I realized, and I asked the grandmothers, and then I realized as well, oh, these are all the same. These are just different names for the same construct of light that supports life on earth. And then someone sent me something that came from the Hindu Vedas, which are probably 7,000 or 8,000 years old now. And in it, they talk about Indra's net, Indra being the god of the sun. And it's the net of light. So this is a timeless construct that the grandmothers are making us aware of so that we can work with it now. Each time we think of the net of light, each time we think of holding the net of light, being held by the net of light, it strengthens. So now within our community, the grandmothers, whenever there's a tragedy anywhere, we magnify the net of light. We do that for ourselves, and we do that for everything that lives.
All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. God is the lover, the beloved, and the love. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you. All I ask of you is forever to remember me as loving you.
The net of light is deeply embedded within the earth, within every body of water, within every land system, with every freeway, within every factory, within every train car, within every fly, gnat, flea, within everything. The net of light is the net of life. It is the net of light. And so recently, science began to catch up with us. And this fall, I got an email from someone where science had discovered this it was the largest form of life in the universe, and they called it the cosmic web. And they were able, it was very hard for them to get a photograph of it, but they finally were able to. And they used what they called dark matter, which I don't really understand, but in order to get the photograph of the cosmic web. So the next thing that happened was I got an email from Katie about, do you want to say what that was?
It was a neuroscientist. The article was in the Smithsonian, and he was talking about in our brain, in the brains of everything, even these primitive, like one-celled, or I guess they don't have brains, do they? Anyway, primitive creatures. There is a web. It's a net, and he actually, I believe, called it a net that exists in our brains. So we're not only hardwired, we're wired with the brain, with the net. It's like the old saying, "As above, so below." The universe, and then and even down to the littlest, tiniest atom. Because when you think of an atom, with the protons and neutrons and electrons, well, they're not, you're looking at it flat. They're not going around it like that. They're going around it in all these different ways. That's a net. That's a weaving around them.
Yes. The next thing was last month in Los Angeles, just to have fun for the weekend, Roger and I went to the IMAX, and they were showing Hubble photographs of space. So we're looking at, and they were beautiful. I was bored with the astronauts putting on their outfits and fixing things, but the photographs of space were just gorgeous. And then they were showing the cosmic web, and we're sitting there, and Roger's going, look at that. And it was the net of light, that the same thing, and it permeates everything. And scientists were saying, we don't know what this is for. And I'm thinking, I'll tell you what it's for. But we know that it pervades the universe, it pervades all life. The thing that they're now seeing, they're able to see these lines of light that they're calling zebra stripes that run throughout the whole world. And they're made of energy. And these lines of light affect one another. And everything is covered by these lines of light. And so it felt wonderful to get that validation, because for a long time, many times I wondered, can I trust this? Is this real? But I kept going anyway. And now science is beginning to say what this is.
All, serving all, holding all within the light.